Alright, so I decided to make this whole video about the custom floor that I made for my Chinese mini excavator. This is obviously the end result, but I had more footage than I expected, so this whole video is basically going to be how I went about doing this floor. Stick around after and I'll have a few things to say about this. There's a pre-existing hole right here. Nothing right here, but I marked this because I want to put a hole there. Might put a hole there, don't know. But I'm just kind of mocking this up. I cut this out so then the end of this is flush with the end, or the end of the side of the frame here, so should line up. And I'm going to be bolting this down to this heavy plate because I want this removable, but I'm going to be welding my square tubing onto this that's going to go back where my feet are going to sit on. So before I take this tape off, I need to drill a hole here. I can't tell if this steel is really crappy or these bits are really good. Now I'll drill a big hole in this thing, that way I can kind of shimmy it around and do what I want with it. Now for this one, I have to accommodate for the hydraulic tank right here, so I got to chop a little bit out of the angle iron to get that to be flush with the front of this plate. So it's not rocket science, there's no rules here. Just gonna cut into this thing. So I gotta cut that out, and then I gotta drill these holes. And remember, I'm gonna make these holes bigger than they need to be so then the bolt can shift around and I can make sure these are good. Use some washers, cinch them down tight, and they're fine. Alright, so I got these done. Holes drilled, and smooth these out with the grinder. Cut that chunk out. So now it sits in there perfect. And that's the other side. Flush with the front of the frame there. And the side of the frame as well. So I cut out 4 pieces of square tubing at 7 5/8, and then I cut out 2 pieces at 7 7/8, so they're only a 1/4 inch off. After I get these bolted in, I'm going to fit these, make sure that they look good, and then I'll probably do some tacks. I have been experimenting for a couple hours now with my design for this. Finally, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a 3-piece floor. There's going to be 2 side parts, and then there's going to be a middle section that just drops in there. I got this angle iron bolted down where it's going to be, and I just did some measuring and I mocked up some of the square tubing that I have. And there's a piece back here that I'm going to drill through the top of that and through this square tubing. And so that'll bolt on under there. And this piece will go in between these, and then another piece will be on the other side there too. And then of course the that tread stuff that I have, I'll cut that out and then put it on top. And then to finish it off, I'm gonna get some angle iron that's gonna kind of act as trim. So then these open ends of the tubing don't show. It'll look nicer, it'll look a little cleaner. But that way there will be 2 bolts down there and 2 bolts up here, and this whole section can get removed if I need access, you know, to the hydraulic tank or to the battery and the cushion valve or to anything in the middle. It'll be a 3-section, you know, floor. So, and you still have a ton of access to stuff. Even with the floor, when it's in there, you can still stick your arm under there and fiddle with stuff without actually taking the floor out, which is kind of funny. It is just a wide open plan here on this excavator. I really like it. Alright, so I've been at it for a couple hours now. Sorry I haven't recorded much. I apologize if anybody's trying to basically get step-by-step instructions in this video on what I'm doing to the floor here. I'm honestly just making this up as I go, so I apologize for that. Basically, in my head, I'm just doing what I was thinking of, which I made 2 identical frames on each side. This one here went in pretty decent. I tack welded it while it was on the excavator, took it outside, welded it. It went in there with minimal, you know, fighting. The other side here, I basically kind of did my measurements and cut the pieces, and I went outside and welded this together, and then I brought it in and stuck it on here, and it was bad. It was way off. It was majorly tweaked. None of the holes lined up how they were supposed to. I even had to grab a pipe wrench and grab on right here, and I had to bend this whole thing. So now it's where it needs to be. I think it's under a little bit of tension, so I'm hoping that when I remove this I can get it back in the same way. But anyway, basically what I'm doing now, I'm going to be putting in some cross members. So I need to cut 6 identical cross members. I'm going to have one here, one somewhere in here, and then another one over here. That way I have a strong surface for the mesh steel to go on. But anyway, I have a bunch of metal to cut. I'm gonna have to take these out again, do more welding, hopefully get them back in. I did measure where the footrests are gonna be, and I sat on the seat, stuck my feet out. I'm gonna have the stance of like a Harley Davidson rider, where you have your legs way out, because this center valve body is in the way of your legs, so your legs can't just go straight, they have to go out. So I'm actually gonna angle the footrest outward a little bit at an angle, and then I have a line drawn on here, right here, and that's where my heel is gonna go, because I sat on this thing. I moved the seat all the way forward, because when the seat's forward, you don't have to hunch over or lean over as much to get the controls in your hands. So basically you can slide the seat forward and back to get on the thing, but when I'm digging with it, the seat needs to be all the way forward, and then the heel of my boot is gonna rest right here, going off that direction a little bit. So I'll show it, but I just want to get the mesh floor kind of done first and then go from there. Don't know how well you can see that, but I measured out the sections that I need. So now I got to cut those out. There'll be 3 sections. Alright, so I tack welded these pieces onto the frame here so you can kind of see the general idea. I have some angle iron that I need to weld to the side here. Kind of more of an aesthetic thing than anything, but it might give it a little bit more support, and it'll kind of cover up these extremely sharp ends on here, at least the side facing outward. And I need to finish welding those in. And then I marked out on this angle iron the pieces that go on the side. So I'm going to cut these, weld the rest of it up. Okay, now I'm going to work on the footrests. So I'm trying to use scrap material. I don't want to have to really go buy anything. So I've kind of been taking inventory, trying to figure out what I have. I want each footrest to be symmetrical, so I don't want to, you know, use different materials for each one. So anyway, went ahead, measured my boot. I would prefer these footrests be 14 inches by 7 inches, but I don't have enough material, so I'm going to do 13 inches by 6 inches. I marked out some things here. This is that mesh material that I want to use up. I think I can make it work with what's left here. I think there should be enough to have some grip for your boot. I have these 2 pieces here, cutting these at 13, cutting 2 of these at 6, 2 of these at 6, and then that should basically be enough material to kind of make the basic shape. If need be, I might use some more square tubing to add support underneath. And then I have to keep in mind that after these rests are made, I have to weld them in the upright position, and that'll require some more metal, but I have enough scraps here that I know I have enough to work with. So I just got to figure out, you know, what's going to work the best and go from there. I got them somewhat mocked up. I know right now it looks weird, but I'm gonna get these welded up and it'll completely make sense. But I basically just had to use what I had, but I wanted to make sure that each one of these was symmetrical. So I used the same type of material for every single piece, even though I'm using 1-inch square tubing, angle iron, 3/4 inch square tubing, 1/2 inch round stock, some heavy like 1/4 inch plate, 1/8 inch small plate. I'm gonna get these welded together and then you'll understand. Alright, so I tack welded this, and I made a mistake with the end here. I cut this at like 6 inches, which is what I cut this angle iron at, but the problem here is that it cuts down on the 13-inch length that I had. So with this on there, it's less than that. It's basically like 12 1/4, which my boot is very close to 12. So I don't want to have minimal clearance in here for my boot to fit. So I need to weld a piece on the end here, so then I get that full 13 inches in here for my boot. But I'm kind of out of material. I had totally forgotten I had 2 of these. I have no idea what these are or what they were for. I pulled them out of a scrap trailer because I hate seeing stuff like this go to the scrap yard. It's good square tubing. It's a little bent up or whatever and rusty, but you know, who cares? So I'm going to utilize this. So right now I'm currently cutting up one of these. I cut it right in half, made out some markings. I'm cutting 2 pieces at 13 inches and 2 pieces at, I believe, 8. And I will show why I did that after I get these cut. That is what I meant. Not only does that look better, but should be good and strong. So my heel will sit on this angle iron. This angle iron I think is 1.25 inches, whereas the square tubing is only 1 inch. So that leaves kind of a taller part of this for my boot to rest against. And then of course I cut out 2 other ones for the other footrest. So each one of them should look like this. Alright, here's the first look at the floor. I had a little bit of trouble getting the left side on, which I knew it would, but no big deal. They're both on there, bolted in, and I even have the cross section in there. Had to grind a little bit off the edges to get it to fit better, but not bad. I have not tried it yet. I made this so the seat would go all the way forward. Oh, that's nice. I don't have a very good back, so the closer I am to these main controls, the better. So I can almost have my back straight up and still reach these, so I don't have to hunch over. I see a lot of people hunching over. So with the seat all the way forward here, I'm really close to these. The smaller controls here are a little awkward. The auxiliary control lever is really close to my left leg. But this is honestly a kind of an awkward spot for this anyway. And it's kind of hard to use because you have to take your left hand off of your main control to open and close the thumb. So it's kind of the lever sucks anyways, but I think I made it just wide enough that my legs go around this main valve body. Like my legs don't really hit on it. Perfect, really. Pretty good for one person doing all this. I measured all this myself, did all the angles myself. This is the first time actually trying it, and I did it exactly the way I wanted to. That's really nice. Put your heel on the angle iron right here. That's 1 1/4 high angle iron here. So your boot can rest on that without slipping off. And it's got grip obviously in there. and it's already incredibly strong. I'm actually going to cut some more pieces and weld some better supports in, but it's perfect, really. The angles are good. This is really nice. And then if for whatever reason the machine tips forward really bad, since your legs are out, your legs act as kind of outriggers, sort of. So it's much easier to kind of keep yourself from going over the valve body onto the boom. You can use your legs to keep your body back. So it's kind of a safety thing, really, too. And my boom does not swing. Just, I don't have the swinging boom, just the whole unit swings. So these sticking out the way they are is never going to be cause any issues with this boom. Now, if I had the boom swing, then obviously this would be bad. But I don't, so really cool. I like this. And when you need to get off the machine, slide the seat back. There's plenty of room here. Literally stand up. That's nice. I'm gonna probably drill some holes in this and then run a bolt through, or maybe have like a removable clip or something like that. That way this doesn't rattle and it doesn't move around. But say you're operating this thing and you have an issue down here, you can undo this, loosen it, literally just lift it up, and then you have access. Pretty much the same that you would with the original floor in this thing. The only difference here is that the floor is see-through. So if you see, you know, hydraulic fluid spraying in there, then you can stop the machine earlier than not being able to see it, and you keep running your machine and moving the machine until you see hydraulic fluid in your dirt. And then by then it could be too late, you know, you might have damaged something. So it's obviously not going to protect hot hydraulic fluid from going up and spraying on you, but I guess hopefully nothing like that ever happens anyway. But easily removable. If it's catastrophic, it's 4 bolts to take these off. 2 there, and then 2 down there. Might be kind of hard to see, but then you can easily remove all this stuff. It's got good grip. This stuff is incredibly sharp. Wouldn't want to, you know, touch it too much with your hands. It could cut you pretty easy. I did have to cut a little bit out here for this cap, because I didn't make it tall enough, but I don't know, maybe put some angle iron in here, that way it's not so sharp, because you'll cut your fingers up trying to undo that cap to the tank there. Alright, next thing to do, I am going to do some measuring, and I'm going to put some extra supports on these, just so then if I really have to push on this really hard with my feet, it's not going to snap off. Which it's already welded pretty good, but you never know. Alright, so I did some measuring, cut out 2 pieces of round stock that are angled on the ends. Basically, gonna go from down here to that support up there, and this thing will be plenty strong when this is welded in. I'm gonna do weld in the rest of the stuff on here, so it'll be even stronger, should be good. I did drill some holes and just throw a bolt in there. Plenty of room underneath to put a nut on there if need be. I gotta tack weld this mesh to those supports, and then I have to cut out the rest of this mesh, because if you try to take the cap off of this reservoir, every single end on this is incredibly sharp. So, and there's not a lot of room there anyway, so I'm just gonna cut the rest of this out. Obviously my feet go on this part anyway, so it doesn't matter that there's going to be mesh missing right there. All right, well, it's the next day. I let these floor panels dry overnight after doing a very cheap paint job on them. But anyway, they've been drying overnight. They're pretty much good now. I got them covered pretty much as best as I could. I'm happy with it. I'm gonna be putting these back on this machine, and then pretty much the floor is gonna be done. All right, I'm gonna start with this side, since this side is always a troublemaker. Make sure the cushion valve's out of the way. I do have these rubber things on this battery because this gets really close to the battery, but I'm not worried about it causing any issues. Alright, finally got that stupid bolt in there. That's what I get for not welding this thing perfectly square and everything, but okay, now for the other side. Hopefully this goes on a little easier. Now, hopefully this goes in there. One thing I did forget to do is I was gonna tack weld a nut to the bottom side of this. That way I didn't have to do what I'm doing right now. But I forgot to do that, so whoops. All right. Awesome. That is so nice. That feels so much different from how this was before I did all this. Literally, you could have the seat this far forward, obviously, but then your legs were, I don't know why, that's just not as comfortable. Having your feet here, and I mean, you can push on it as hard as you want. These footrests aren't going to go anywhere. So if this machine was tipping forward, you can use your legs to keep your body upright. So this is awesome. These are really, really cool. It was a lot of work, but I managed to do it symmetrically and with materials I already had, which was awesome. And then I can see right through the floor. You can look down when you're running this machine. You can see the cushion valve, the swing motor, some of the hoses in there. You can see the tank. And then obviously in the back here, you can see all that other stuff. But if I were to have a failure down here, whether, you know, a fitting broke or a hose blew, you would probably see it a lot faster being able to see through the floor than if you had the original floor and panels and everything on this machine. And the only time you'd really see if something's leaking is when you lost hydraulic function or literally backed up the excavator and then saw a pile of, you know, fluid somewhere that you had no idea was leaking. So that's what I really like about this floor being open like that. And then of course, when you want to get off the machine, push the seat all the way back. Even though these are kind of in your way just a tiny bit, you still have enough room to stand up and get off the machine. It's not bad. So I apologize, that kind of wasn't a how-to video. It was more just what I did. And honestly, I kind of changed the design in my head about 1,000 times when I was building this. I'm pretty happy with the end result. If I had to redo it, there's some things I would do differently. At the same time, I was kind of battling not wanting to buy any new metal for this project. And I basically, I think other than a little bit of angle iron and maybe a piece of square tubing, pretty much everything else here is stuff that I already have. I typically, you know, pile on extra metal and whatnot in the top of this rolling cart. Larger stuff, I kind of throw it in between the studs in my garage. But I did pretty much use mostly stuff I already had, so that kind of helped keep the cost low. The paint job on it, I did not prime it. I just painted over it about 3 coats of really good tractor paint, spray paint, gloss black, and I've been doing that for a long time. I've never had issues with rust or anything like that, painting any type of metal with tractor paint. I've had good luck with it, so that's why I chose it. Right away when I got this project done, I had posted it somewhere and somebody made a comment right away, and they said, what happens when you get really dirty boots? And it's kind of something I didn't really think about, but I kind of asked them, I'm like, well, what do you mean dirty boots? And obviously they meant, you know, if you're digging in the mud and whatever, and you got your boots caked in mud, and then you get on this, the chunks are going to break apart and they're going to fall on top of everything underneath of there. While that's true, for 2 reasons, it kind of doesn't apply to me, because I always scrape my boots off before I get in anything, whether it's this or a riding mower or, you know, a semi-tractor or my pickup, whatever. I always clean my boots. I never hop on something with muddy boots. And then secondly, where I'm from, we seem to be in, you know, a constant state of some level of severity for drought. So I don't really deal with mud. And if we got enough rain that it were muddy, I wouldn't be out operating this thing anyways. So I know a lot of people live in places that are insanely muddy, which I've seen videos. It looks awful. I can't imagine dealing with mud all the time. So in a way, I guess I'm kind of lucky that it's dry where I'm from. But yeah, having the floor open like that so then debris can fall in there doesn't really bother me. It's not an issue for me. But part of the reason I wanted to use this material, one, I had this huge piece of the steel mesh anyways, and I had no idea what to do with it. 2, it gives you really good grip. It's very grippy. In fact, some of it's kind of sharp. So you ever really only want your boots touching this. I don't really want anyone poking at it, because you can easily cut your finger open on this thing. Lots of grip there, which is nice. Obviously, I wanted the footrest. That was kind of one of the first things I was thinking with this floor, because these machines are extremely awkward with the floor that came in it. Now, I think I mentioned this in the video, but I made this so then if I ever wanted to, I can put every single panel back on this AGT and make it stock again. Other than drilling some holes in that really heavy plate on the bottom there, I didn't really, you know, alter anything with this machine. I didn't weld on it, you know, nothing like that. I didn't really cut anything. So I can turn this back stock if I want, but kind of the main reason I even wanted to do this floor was when the original floor was in there, there's a bar that comes up, goes kind of in front of the valve body here, goes down to the other side, and it bolts right there, literally right there. So there's a bar, right? And the roof basically connects to that with some other tubing, and it was a poor design. So, you know, your boots would go around each side of this valve body, and then there's a pole or a, you know, piece of tubing in the way. So it was kind of uncomfortable like that. Not to mention, you couldn't really stretch your legs out, which was uncomfortable. And then now that you can kind of stretch out, you can really get the seat really close to these controls, and it's really comfortable. It's really nice. and kind of keep your back straight when using this thing, help with back pain a little bit. And then obviously, you know, when you got your legs stretched out on this thing, if you tip forward, whether or not it's, you know, whether or not you're going to tip over, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep your body upright, because even the smallest bit of angle, if you tip too far, people actually like fall over the valve body. They fall over the controls, and I've seen some videos and it's actually really bad. I'm really surprised that happens to people as bad as it does. They do not give you seat belts on these things, and that's actually sort of a surprise. And it is something that's crossed my mind a few times as far as the safety thing. Yeah, these footrests do give you a chance to use your legs to brace your body if you need to. And then, because this mesh material is see-through, obviously, you can see absolutely everything underneath of there. So I got the body panels for this machine like up in the attic and scattered all over the place, but when the original body was on there, obviously you couldn't see anything underneath of there. So you could have a hose or a fitting break on you, be dumping out hydraulic oil. You're sitting in the same spot, digging back and forth, and you're in the zone and you're not paying attention to anything else other than the task at hand. And it's until you pretty much like back the machine up and try to move it, then you'll see a huge pile of hydraulic fluid, or you'll lose your hydraulics because, you know, you dumped all your fluid out, whatever. This floor gives me a really good chance to see everything. I can see the battery, I can see my cushion valve that I installed, I can see the hoses for the grease, I can see the swing motor, there's some electrical I can see. Kind of underneath of this and directly underneath this valve body, there's some more hoses down there. You know, obviously the tank here. So it's just all pretty exposed, and not only can I see stuff here, but I would think that having this open would allow some of the heat to escape out of this thing. I have a video coming up soon about lots of other upgrades and small fixes and whatnot that I'm doing to this machine. One of those is that I'm modifying this to be really open. So engine, pump, hydraulic tank, hoses, everything is going to be open just as you see it right now. I have a custom rollover system I'm going to put on there, along with some sort of counterweight setup that I haven't designed yet. But the whole thing is that for the time being, I don't want to have to put any fans on this and no, you know, oil cooler for the hydraulics. So if I can have this thing as open as possible and let that air go through it, I think that'll help a lot with cooling the engine and cooling the hydraulic system. So I don't really care about looks. Right now I just care if this thing functions right, and going into the summer here, I want to have this machine done and ready to go, so then it performs a lot better than it did last summer and be a lot more comfortable at the same time. As far as looks, don't care. But anyway, I just wanted to have this video kind of be by itself on this floor. I guess if I were to give any tips about it, one would be, if you're gonna make something like this, it's not a bad idea to tack weld or weld the whole piece while it's on the machine. I made the mistake of, on this side, I tack welded this one section here. There's 3 removable sections, 10 bolts total, 4 for each side, and then 2 in the middle. This side here I tack welded in while it was on the machine, but being that there's gasoline and hydraulic oil and just my whole shop here is just full of flammable stuff, I took it outside, welded the rest of it, came back in, stuck it in there. The other side, I did not want to tack weld it in place on this machine because of the, you know, amount of flammables in here. So I took the pieces outside, welded them, and when you weld and you heat a piece of metal, it'll warp. It'll go up, down, side, whatever. It'll bend things, you know. It's pretty crazy actually how the heat from welding deforms pieces. So I had a heck of a time trying to get this piece in there. In fact, this thing is under a ton of tension, so if you try to remove this and take the 4 bolts out that are holding it down, one of these bolts is not going to want to come out very easy. So you might have to use a pipe wrench, or I might have to push on it with my leg or something, possibly to get the last bolt out to remove this thing. Otherwise, you know, maybe it'll kind of lose some tension over time by being bolted in there, you know. But anyway, be very careful. My design was kind of poor because the terminals for this battery are on top, and you know, the positive and negative terminals are kind of really close to this structure and not spaced the best. I wanted the cross bracing on each side to be identical, otherwise I probably would have moved this piece of square tubing right here and the other piece up here. It's really just for support, for strength, but it's so close to those terminals that if this rubber stuff wasn't on there, you know, if it starts arcing and stuff and you can't move it or you can't take it off fast enough, probably be a pretty bad day. Starting a fire or having the battery explode or something. So kind of dumb on my part. I would definitely have somebody help you do this. I did it all myself, and that's part of the reason it's so crooked. It's incredibly hard to sit on this thing, stick your legs out, and then make them, you know, take the measurements from there. I tried my best to get these symmetrical, meaning the same amount of angle, the same distance out. I think looking at these, I personally think that it's not noticeable that they're off. It might be obvious to other people, I don't know. But to my eyes, they look pretty close, but they're not perfect. They're definitely off. But it is comfortable, and my feet go exactly where I want them to go. So if you have someone to help you, probably be a good idea to do that. I guess other than those few things, nothing else really to say about it. I think it's gonna work fine for me. Some people that are much better than at fabricating than me can probably make something a lot cooler, a lot straighter, you know. But I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer. I'm not great at anything, but you know, I'll never shy away from trying stuff. So I'm happy with it. It's a good upgrade. I think the more comfortable you are running a piece of equipment, the better you're gonna be at running it. Because last summer when I was digging with this thing, my back was killing me. My feet were, you know, getting tense on me because I had nowhere to stretch out, so I was getting cramps and whatnot. And obviously trying to move these controls in a way where you don't break anything because they're so touchy, you know, it takes a lot of energy, you know, both mentally and physically even, to operate a, you know, piece of equipment for an extended period of time if you're not comfortable. I learned that being a truck driver. So by adding this custom floor with the footrest and being able to move the seat really close and keep my back straight, and then of course the cushion valve, which is another video, but I highly recommend watching that because that's the best thing I've ever done to this machine, is that cushion valve. But now that I have the cushion valve in there, I don't have to be so careful going right and left, you know, using the swing motor. So this machine is getting more comfortable. Hopefully it'll be running cooler. All kinds of good things going on with it right now. So stay tuned. I'll have more videos about some of the things I'm doing. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll have some videos coming out in the future about this machine. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much for watching.